and welcome to One Cardinal, One Cup, and One Beer. JJ, what is going on in the baseball world right now? What's happening?
Spring training has
Yes,
started.
yes, we are back. No more having to fish around and find things to talk about because it's the winter time and things slow down. We're actually going to have real games in about 9 days. Okay, spring training games, but hey, they're still going to throw a ball. They're going to try to hit it. They're going to try to catch it, strike people out. They're going to keep score. That's good enough for me right now. So,
a lot of jobs up for grabs. These kids are going to be giving it everything they got.
oh, I thought you were talking about me.
Well, we always give what we got.
As we start off, remember to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter. You can contact us at one card, one cup, one beer at gmail.com. Subscribe to our page by clicking on the icon in the bottom right, and that way, as soon as we post content, you'll be notified. Anyway, also, please support us through Patreon. Go to patreon.com, and in the search, just put One Cardinal, One Cup, and One Beer, and you can see we do have 3 levels of support. First level of support is simply $3 a month, and we do appreciate everybody who supports. Second level is 5, and then it goes up to 10 for those of you who are very wealthy. As JJ is leaving, I guess.
I'm adjusting. So there we go.
Okay.
I had a pop-up on the screen. Sorry about that, Vince.
That's
okay.
I
apologize.
So tell us, JJ, what is going on in Cardinal land?
A lot of you, I'm going to go behind the scenes here at One Cardinal, One Cup, One Beer. A lot of you don't know we tape on Wednesday nights. So today is February 15th. And as a lot of the baseball nerds know, that is the day that the Topps baseball cards come out. And I don't have any yet. I can't get my greedy little hands on any, but I saw the pictures of them. And the wrapper, it's kind of an honor. It's a very big honor to be on the wrapper. And it's Julio Rodriguez of the Seattle Mariners. And I think that's a good choice. I think he's a great player, but I like what baseball's doing. They put Chaz Chisholm on the Mariners on the MLB baseball game. And now they have Julio Rodriguez featured on the baseball cards. So that's really nice. They're very nice card. It'll take me forever to describe it. Hopefully I'll have some here in a couple of weeks. But for all you baseball nerds out there, there's a lot of rookies in there. Adley Rutschman from the Orioles. I think there's something like 38, 39 rookies in there. And a lot of people view baseball cards as like the stock exchange. They're grabbing all the rookies and hanging on to them and investing in them. I say have fun, but I know that Adley Rutschman, Julio Rodriguez, there's all kinds of companies that make rookie cards and cards. So it's hard to find the one that's going to be the big card worth a lot of money. So good luck, but I'm looking forward to the set coming out. And when we were kids, Vince, the baseball cards came out and it was all 700 cards. Well, now they come out in 3 time periods: Series 1, Series 2, and the update set. The update set's kind of harder to get, but they're the players that were traded during the year up to a certain point, and they'll be in their new uniforms.
Yeah, Topps did that when I was growing up. I don't know if they did it every year, but I remember a few years towards after the trading deadline, it would be like, I remember like Mickey Lolich was traded to the Mets, and there was a card for that. There was a card for whomever was traded. So that's something that I think was sporadically done. I don't remember it being done every year, but I do remember 1 or 2 years when they did that.
When they first did it, there was like a card that came out with like a newspaper headline.
Yeah.
And 78 maybe, but somewhere in the 80s, there was a whole, sometimes 200, 300 cards, and it was fun seeing the new players in their new uniforms. I always got a kick out of that one. The first card where Ozzie was in a Cardinal uniform, and Gary Templeton was in the San Diego Padre uniform. I mean, it was just kind of something neat to see and something to look forward to. So they'll come out like that, and Series 1 is out apparently right now, and I'm guessing all the card shops will start stocking them and everything. So I'll get those as soon as I can. Another thing that happened this week, since we talked last, everybody, is baseball has overwhelmingly adopted the extra inning rule, where from the 10th inning on, there'll be a man at second base to start every half inning. And I know, Vince, you said before you really like that rule.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. And again, a lot of fans you don't want to blow up your bullpens throwing 16, 17, 18 innings. I understand. I know last year the Cardinals had to throw, I think, Yachty a couple innings, and Dickerson pitched a game, and Pujols came in there, and some blowouts. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. But the players' union and owners, everybody agreed it was a good idea. So that's what they're going to do. Now, it won't be going on in the postseason. So they're not going to be doing that in the postseason, only the regular season. And I like that you got to win it. You got
I do too.
Yeah.
Postseason, win it on the field with the traditional rules, but for the health of the players and the sanity of the fans who don't want to stay up for 8 hours watching one game, I do like put the runner on second, get some action going, and let's try to end this thing at a reasonable time period.
Yeah, you're right. You're right on that one. I kind of was slow to come around on that one. Anyway, that's gonna be fun. And extra innings, that Cleveland game that went about 17 innings last year. I'm telling you what, every half inning, bang bang plays at the I just love that. So I'm glad they're going to keep that up in the postseason. In Cardinal land, John Mozeliak got a contract extension through 2025. So he did spend some of that. I was
worried about his financial future. I'm glad that's secure.
And a lot of Cardinal fans said he promised to spend some money. Well, there you go. He spent some money right there. Now, a lot of the people I know, they're kind of split in the middle. Oh, John Mozeliak, he won't make no trades. I tell you what, we've done nothing but win since he's been here. And I think he's going to be one of those things when he's gone, we're going to miss him. So I'm glad he's here. I have faith in him. He's done a good job since he's been here. And I ain't going to say a cross word towards him. He's not the most exciting guy in an interview, though, if you've ever heard an interview with him.
Yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why fans don't really warm up to him, because the Cardinals are just doing what the Cardinals have always done. They've never been big spenders. They've always been very cautious with their spending and only spent when they felt like it was absolutely necessary or would absolutely benefit the team. But I think it's the way he comes across. He comes across almost too robotic and business-like.
You're right.
I don't mind it. It's the results you're looking for, and when you go to the playoffs every year, I think you're earning your money.
My whole belief system is if the team is within 5 games of first place come September, you just give us a chance. Just give us a chance to make every game matter. And in September, if you're within 5 games, you still have a chance to take it. So that's all I ask. I know I want to win the World Series every year. It's just not realistic, and it's not a bad year if you don't win the World Series. You just go out, you do your best. Injuries happen, just sometimes it's dumb luck. I'm going to show a card off every time we have our little hellos, how we doing. And by the way, it's Black History Month, and I'm wearing my Homestead Grays. This was the team that Josh Gibson played for, so I'm wearing my Homestead Gray hat of that Josh Gibson played. And the player I'm featuring today, in 1989, they had I Love Postcards, and they had a postcard set of Hall of Famers, and a lot of them signed them, and of course you can get them unsigned. But I got Pops Willie Stargell right there. I love that card. It's got him in the old 79 hats where he would give out the stars, and then there he is swinging the bat, and this one is actually signed by Willie, and I got my little letter of authenticity. So I love that. Here's a couple of other Willie Stargells. That's like 1974 right there. And I thought I had enough. Oh yeah, this is one of the ones from the 60s right here. A young Willie Stargell right there. How about that? So Anyway, showing off, I got to show off some of my collectibles here, but I got some Willie Stargell stuff. Also, Vince, a couple weeks ago, I got the Joe Torre 71 Slurpee 7-Eleven Slurpee cup. Well, now I got the Ted Simmons. Yes. So Vince, if you come over for Kool-Aid, you're drinking in style. Right there. And it's the day after Valentine's Day. And I got a little something brotherly love here for actually you and Max. They came in yesterday, and it's the one Cardinal, one Cub, one beer in. I got two of them, one for you and one for Max, in the Cub blue right there.
Very nice. Thank you.
As soon as I see, I will get that to you. And that's it in Cardinal news right there.
Okay. In Cubby news, spring training is open. The pitchers who are going to be pitching in the World Baseball Classic were supposed to report on the 13th. The position players who are playing in the World Baseball Classic report today. Pitchers not participating in the World Baseball Classic are supposed to report today, and position players not participating in the World Baseball Classic are supposed to report on the 20th. That's a lot of confusion, but just know this: people are coming to spring training right now. That's really the only important thing that you need to know. Pitchers are throwing, catchers are catching. They're going out on the field early, smelling the cut grass and everything. Just beautiful. So,
smell of chalk, the chalk lines.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's
yeah.
good stuff.
In Cub news, this week we did make a signing. We signed Michael Fulmer. I do like the signing. He is the 2016 American League Rookie of the Year when he pitched for the Tigers. In 2017, he was an all-star. 2019, he missed the season with Tommy John surgery. And although he came up as a starter, he has been pitching out of the pen the last few years. Last year, he split the season between Detroit and the Twins to a 3.39 ERA and 3 saves. So he's a good bullpen piece. He's a veteran. He's got some really good stuff, and I'm excited about that. Also, I've talked about Nick Madrigal, that there's really no place on this team for him. Well, Nick Madrigal, who is about 2'6" and only hits the ball about 120 feet, he is taking reps at third base. And unless we can get rid of him, I don't know. I guess we're thinking about he's an option at third base. I don't like him as an option at third base. I want someone at third base who can hit the ball into the gaps, get some doubles, hit some home runs. Madrigal could not get an extra base hit to save his life last year. Even the hits that he got, he only hit like 249, and he doesn't walk. For a guy who is supposedly a contact hitter, who should be a 300 hitter, he had an abysmal year. He did not impress me at all, and he's not a good fielder. And to move him to the hot corner from second base to the hot corner, excuse me, is not something that excites Vincent. Okay. But I don't know what else we're going to do with him. Apparently, a few weeks ago, we had a trade in place with the Red Sox, and it fell through. And he does have options. So, I mean, I'm kind of hoping, this sounds terrible, if we can't trade him, I'm kind of hoping he has a terrible spring training, and we'll say, hey, man, you need to go to the minors and figure it out. So, but one thing, I do have to renew my MLB.TV for the year. And for those of you who are familiar, and I think most people are, I can't get Cardinal games because they're blacked out with MLB.
Too close to St. Louis?
Yeah. And the problem is I cut the cord almost 15 years ago. I've been on streaming TV with Sling and different other Netflix, whatever. There is no way to get Cardinal games in St. Louis unless you get cable and have Bally, which was what took over for Fox Sports Midwest. I remember about 3 or 4 years ago, suddenly on my Sling, they took out Fox Sports Midwest. It was just gone. I was like, gosh,
Yeah.
So the only way I can watch Cardinal games is to do it through alternative streaming sites, or to get a VPN and sound coming from Nova Scotia or something like that. So I was on the internet today doing some show prep, and I happened to go on Twitter, and I'm reading a lot of people who are just completely fed up. Bally is apparently not making money. They're butchering it. Uh, Cub fans have the same issue in Chicago. You cannot get the marquee network unless you have one of the certain cable systems, and there's a couple different cable systems in the Chicago areas. They're only on one of them. Fortunately, they're not blacked out where I'm at. I in St. Louis, I can watch all the Cub games. It's not a problem. But it's just time we do something about that. We are past the age of cable TV. There are people who still have cable. I understand that. But for the most part, most people have been steadily cutting the cord and going to streaming TV. And it's time that we lift the blackouts. If they want to do something a la carte where you buy the home games in St. Louis, or you buy a package of 20 games or something, I would love that.
Me too.
My wife's a huge Cardinal fan, and she has trouble watching the games. And I actually do enjoy watching Cardinal games, especially when the Cubs come to St. Louis, because that's the only time they black out the Cub games is when they're in St. Louis. So I don't have any answers at this time, but I'm just joining the bandwagon to say it's time Major League Baseball get into the 21st century and quit punishing people for living in a particular area. And, Major League Baseball, one of their issues, stated problems, is that they are not getting the younger generation. So we need to make the game more exciting, so on and so forth. How about you make it accessible for young people who are mostly cord cutters to watch the damn home games on their streaming device? If you want fans, they need to be able to see the product on TV without having to be forced to get a cable package. Keep it on cable, that's fine with me, but just expand to where we can watch our teams in the blacked out areas. There are some places where there's 8-10 teams blacked out in a particular area because of proximity.
Oh, yeah.
For work, I used to go to Des Moines, and I think it was Cub games, or was it Card? There was like Royals games were blacked out there. It was like, my
Wow.
goodness. Yeah, Des Moines, which isn't really close to very many things, had like 3 teams that were blacked out. And I was like, this is ridiculous. I think it's just time that Major League Baseball step in, come up with a package deal for streaming TV, make their money. People are still going to go to the ballpark. It's a different experience being at the ballpark and watching on TV. And people do enjoy both experiences. I love watching games on TV. That's my preferred method. But man, I like to go to some games during the year. I like that ballpark experience.
I
So,
agree with you, Vince. It makes you miss the old WGN days because the Cubs, you could see them every day. And, I just love baseball. I loved hearing Harry Carey and Steve Stone, and it made Cub fans all around the nation. I know Geddy Lee, the rock star from Rush, he would say he'd get up and the Cubs would be on TV, and he got to love baseball by watching WGN and watching the Cubs. And I just think if you don't get to see it, you don't know what you're missing, and they're going to lose a lot of fans. And you said it so well, but yeah, I'm with you. If they had a thing where you bought a package where you could just see the games, I'd go do that. I'd do that. But the average people ought to be, the people who wouldn't go spend that ought to be able to have a way to see games. I'm with you 100% on that.
That's all I got with Cubs, rumors, and news, and Vince's rambling.
Hey, I love that should be a segment every week.
JJ had a great idea. He said, why don't we each come up with 7 things that we like or dislike about each other's teams? And I love that. And I want to tell you, I know I'm an old curmudgeon, but I did not just sit down and say 7 things that I don't like about the Cardinals. Okay. I I I did 4 things that I like and 3 things that I dislike. JJ, how did you do this? I know you're so positive. You said, I love everything about the Cubs.
I said all 7 good things about Chicago and the Cubs. Now, I'm a Cardinal fanatic. I love my Cardinals. Cardinals first. But when I was in the Navy, I was stationed up in Chicago, Great Lakes, which is about an hour up from Chicago. And I'd take the train down and I'd go to Kaminsky Park and see the White Sox and Wrigley Field and see the Cubs. Absolutely loved it. Now, there's some areas that's a little rough, but for the most part, it's a great place. I encourage people, you got to go to Wrigley Field. Do you want me to do all 7 of mine? It won't take me long.
Yeah, go ahead and do all 7 of yours.
All right. Number 7, I'm going to go from 7 all the way to the number 1 thing I love about the Chicago Cubs. And Vince, I'm going to tell you this. Doing this show with you, I won't say I love the Cubs, but I like the Cubs. How's that? I've warmed up to the Cubs. And I've been, I read everything ferociously about the Cardinals, but then I got to go check out what's happening with the Cubs now. I got to keep up with you. So I'm enjoying the Cubs. Well, number 7, and I'm going to say they got us beating this, is the food. Incredible food in Chicago around the ballpark. They have so many hot dog places and bratwurst places. I'll name a few in a minute. Now, I'm an Emo's pizza guy. A lot of people don't like the Emo's. If you're not in St. Louis, they're a little thin crust pizza. Absolutely love it. Love the cheese. But up there in Chicago, they got that deep dish stuff. It's a big old piece of pie, basically. Oh, my gosh. I went to a place. Let me see. I got it written down here. I don't know if I can read it now. I can't read it. Gino's. I went to Gino's and had the pizza. Fantastic. They have fried. Now I'm from Arkansas. Fried potatoes on a stick. What food doesn't taste better on a stick? Fried potatoes on a stick right there. Call me up. I'll be there. I don't care where we're at. What time? 3:00 in the morning. You call me. I'm coming over with some fried potatoes on a stick. They use a hot dog, Vienna hot dogs. I wasn't familiar with it, but they got signs around the ballpark with Vienna hot dogs. They got a place right outside the ballpark. And Chicago style hot dog, you can take the stuff off or order it however you like. But they usually put pickles and tomatoes and onions on their hot dogs, like a sesame seed hot dog bun. It's very, very good. And there's 2 places you got to go when you go up there. Wrigleyville hot dogs, very high rating, fantastic. But there's a place called the Wiener Circle, and it comes with a hot dog, and you get the abuse on the side. They actually will harass you and give you crap the whole time you're there. Absolutely love it. It ain't for everybody, but that's my cup of tea right there. So number 7 in Chicago is the food. Yeah, and you come to a fat guy, I know my food. All right. Number 6, I love the tradition of the Chicago Cubs. I love the tradition. Everything about it. It's such a the memories. I mean, the Rick Monday coming down there and grabbing the American flag when those guys were going to do that. Sammy Sosa running out there and the crowd going crazy. All the great players. Ryan Sandberg, although this is a heartbreaking memory, the 2 home runs off of Bruce Sutter. I'll never forget that game, that 23-22 game against the Phillies. The tradition. I just absolutely love that. And Chicago, I have to say, is the Cubbies have to be one of the 6 greatest baseball teams, just as far as tradition and things that's happened and the ball players that have come through there. So I do love the tradition. Number 5, I didn't know where to put this, but going to Wrigley, and I think Wrigley and Boston Fenway, I think like going to a baseball game is sort of like going to church, but going to Wrigley Field is like going to a revival. You're going in history. This is the same ballpark that Ted Williams, Babe Ruth, and Ty Cobb, those guys played in this ballpark. The Ivy, the 2 foul poles. I think one's Billy Williams and one's Ron Santo. They got the foul poles named after great ball players. The area around the ballpark. You can go set up there and watch the game on a rooftop. It's different now. I was there. I think the last time I was there maybe was 99, and I hear it used to be like a little neighborhood with some bars and restaurants. Oh yes, and the bars have batting cages in them. Now right there, how you gonna beat that? batting cages. I don't know if you should get all liquored up and go in there and take batting practice, but I'm telling you what, they got batting cages in there. I put number 4, and these aren't in any specific order. Ernie Banks. Who doesn't love Ernie Banks? No one ever says anything bad about Ernie Banks. Ernie Banks, he got to play baseball and he loved it. He had a smile on his face. And the poor guy never won a World Series, but he went out there and gave you his all. One of the all-time greatest players that ever lived. 2-time MVP, 14 All-Stars games, 19 years only with the Chicago Cubs. And that's perfect. Let's play 2. 512 home runs. And I don't know if there's another shortstop that's hit that many home runs. Well, A-Rod, but I don't know what you call him. But anyway, he played third and short, but Ernie Banks right there.
Well, Banks played half his career, the second half of his career at first. So I'm not sure how many of those home runs were at short, how many was at first. So,
but still, yeah, 500 home run club, Ernie Banks. Just love it. I got a few Ernie Banks cards. I actually got something autographed by Ernie Banks too. But I love Ernie Banks. And I'm going to say this, the optimism. Now, I know the Cubs took a lot of heat all those years between World Series championships. There's some good years in there, not so good years, but those fans would show up and, they'd be there. They could be 18 games out of first place. Those fans show up. And I can't say that about St. Louis Cardinals. I've been there in August when we're out of it. And it's a ghost town, but in Wrigleyville, it's a party. And I really enjoy it. I'm a St. Louis Cardinal fan. I go there and they treat me pretty good. They give me some crap too, which is fine, which I kind of enjoyed. But it's a good time. I recommend everybody going. And that brings me up to number 2, the fans. Die hard, lifelong. Vince, you had your father, your son, just the whole family, a lifetime of the Chicago Cubs. I mean, we got that in St. Louis too, but I really like that. And if you go to the ballpark, a lot of times you'll see the grandfather, the dad and the grandson, or the mom and the daughter. You just see generations of fans out there, and it's a good time. And I like that they make that beer bridge all the way from the wall up to the upper deck or something. That's incredible. That's like $9 a beer. My favorite thing about the Chicago Cubs is their blue uniforms. Absolutely love them. That lights up the TV when they're on. If you got an HD TV and you see them blue uniforms, lights it up. So, am I a Cub hater? No. Am I a Cub lover? No. I'm a Cub liker. That's what I am.
Okay. We'll take that. We will take that. What I did is I did a like and a dislike, a like and a dislike. So I came up with 4 likes and 3 dislikes. Okay.
You're going to make us better, Vince. You're going to make us better when we hear these dislikes.
The first thing that I like about the Cardinals is the consistency. And we talked a little bit about Mozeliak getting some criticism. There are so many teams, aside from like the Yankees, some of these teams that feel like, oh, we should win it every year. There are so many teams that would just die to have the Cardinals consistency. We're going to be in the playoffs every year. We're not going to have the largest payroll, but the money's going to be spent wisely and we're going to be competitive. And then there's going to be some years where we're going to be able to take the whole thing. I think that's, if an organization gives a fan base that, they're doing their job. And I know that in the late teens, the Cubs kind of took over and the Cardinals weren't in the playoffs for a few years. And there was a little bit of anger towards management. But you got to look at that time, that Cub team was so young and so stacked. It was very tough for the other teams in the division to keep up with that. And fortunately for the other teams in the division, they couldn't sustain it due to injuries, due to not being able to extend, due to some players not really living up to the hype and to the start that they had. I think of Addison Russell. We thought, my gosh, this guy is going to be the preeminent shortstop in the National League for 10 years. And within a couple of years, he's just gone. But do love the consistency. One thing that I don't like about the Cardinals is the best fans in baseball. And I will tell you why I don't like that. Because if the Cardinals have a prolonged period of where they're just not competitive, the fans aren't going to come. That's fandom. That's the way things are. I told the story on here a few weeks ago. Went to a game late in the season. The Cardinals are playing the Expos, late 70s. They were terrible. They lost like 90, 100 games. They were really bad. And there were 3 foul balls hit in an area, and one guy got all 3 balls because there was just no one in the stands. So yes, I've been in St. Louis when there's been 8,000 fans. I've been there when there's been they've been pretty good in the early 80s. In 82, I went to games, just walked right up, got in the bleachers, Hey, this team was in first place. They wasn't selling out every game. It's easy to say we're the best fans in baseball as long as you have that kind of winning and consistency. But I really don't think that there is anybody who is a fan base that is the best fans in baseball. I don't think there's a fan base that is the most knowledgeable fans in baseball. I do know that the players love coming to St. Louis because they are adored by the fans. But for every Paul Goldschmidt or Mark McGuire, someone who's adored by the fans, there are some players who've been here who haven't liked their stay here. But that's not highlighted, and I understand that. It's the local media. They're only going to highlight the players who say this is a great place, this is baseball heaven. But I think that's one of the reasons why, I think that's the main reason why fandom, baseball fans nationally really do not like the Cardinals. Are one of the most disliked organizations. It's because of this claim that we have the best fans in baseball. One of the things that I really like about the Cardinals is the reverence for the history of their team. I love the statues. I love going to games and sitting down and just looking at all the Cardinal jerseys and seeing all the names, seeing names from Musial, Slaughter, going up into, you get Boyer over here. Oh my gosh, there's even a Bob Forsch over here. Oh my gosh, I see a John Tudor over here, and you just see all these jerseys with names from the past. I think that is so cool. And I go to games in Wrigley, and you will see some of that, but not nearly like you see in St. Louis because let's face it, nobody is marketing or putting out Larry Bowa Cubs jerseys. But you know what? I've seen Roger Freed jerseys that aren't new or that aren't old. It's right. Like, wow, it's just amazing how the team has a reverence for the history of their team, and they really let the people enjoy that. I think that's awesome. Another thing that I don't like, which goes along with my number 2, the best fans in baseball, is that there is an element of the fandom in St. Louis that think that they're entitled to be in the playoffs every year. I don't like that with any team. And I did not like that when the Cubs started. There were Cub fans that, well, we should be in it. We should be in it. Your playoff spot is earned every year. Nobody's entitled to it. And there have been teams with some hefty payrolls that were all-star teams that just could not make the playoffs. Let's see what the Rangers do this year. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs, but man, they got a big payroll and a lot of all-stars on their team. We've seen many years where last year the Mets, 2 years ago, the Mets didn't make the playoffs. Right. Last year the Mets made the playoffs, but didn't they sneak in? I mean, no, it's the Braves that snuck in.
The Braves caught them at the end, yeah.
Yeah. So, no team is entitled to be in the playoffs every year. And I'm not saying it's every fan. I'm saying there's an element of some fans when you listen to talk radio, they're calling, we should be, no. Yeah. You have the opportunity to earn it. You've got a good enough team. They have a great probability of winning it, but you never know what's going to happen. Injuries can happen.
Oh
Players get
yeah.
skills erode. You just never know what's going to happen.
Chemistry. Sometimes it's the chemistry just doesn't work.
Yeah. Like,
Oh,
I like Cardinal players. And I decided, I know I've got 5 of my favorite Cardinal players under this one thing that I like. My
okay.
first favorite Cardinal player was Ted Simmons. It was
Yes.
his hair, it was him smoking in the dugout.
There you
And I
go.
thought, this cat's pretty cool. And he was a heck of a player. So when I was growing up, it was, bench was the benchmark, pun intended.
He
And
is.
Simmons was down here, but he was the second best catcher in the league. Um, if there was no bench, Simmons would have been in the Hall of Fame years ago, maybe decades ago. But Ted Simmons was a heck of a player. He did not have a good arm. He was not great defensively. He could block balls really good. He had his defensive skills that were adequate enough to be to where he wasn't embarrassing himself behind the plate. He certainly wasn't a Michael Barrett back there. So I love Ted Simmons. My second favorite player was Willie McGee. All the great memories and all the humbleness to go with it. Willie McGee is the guy that you would
Oh
see
yeah.
at Walmart. I mean, hey, how you doing? And I love that about Willie, and I loved his athleticism and the way he approached the game. Um, I also loved Andy Van Slyke, and he wasn't here that long, but I liked him because Andy Van Slyke, I loved his interviews. He was funny. He had a great
Yeah.
sense of humor. He was so offbeat, and you couldn't help but like him. And when the Cardinals traded him to the Pirates, I thought, not him. He's got the best personality on the team. And I'm glad he had a lot of success in Pittsburgh and made some all-star teams. And I just loved Andy Van Slyke. And I had the privilege in the 90s. I managed a pest control company in Chesterfield. And one of our clients was Andy Van Slyke. So I had the opportunity to go into his house a few times. And I didn't talk to him like, hey, I'm a real big fan. But how you doing? So that's pretty cool. And
Yeah.
this
But
is kind of
great.
a forgotten Cardinal, but I loved his attitude. And it's probably why the Cardinals got rid of him. I love Steve Klein. Uh,
Oh
Steve
yeah.
Klein would come out of the bullpen and he just had a bulldog mentality. And I remember once LaRussa got him up to warm up and then sat him down, got him up to warm up again, sat him down, got him up again. And then Klein flipped off LaRussa.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh
Oh, yeah.
man.
And the next day I was listening to the radio and Klein was on the radio. And this is kind of a sexual term, but in bullpen
Lingo.
verbiage, when you warm up and then are not brought into the game, that's called dry humping. So what he was saying was he dry humped me once, he dry humped me twice. Now he was going to threaten to do it again. So I flipped him off and I thought, wow,
Oh,
how many of us would like
wow.
to flip off our boss every now and then? But that's probably why Steve Klein finished his career in Baltimore. And
Dirtiest hat in the game. Dirtiest hat in the
oh
game.
yeah, Kleiner, he was a gamer. And my last player that I really loved, coming out of the bullpen, Jason Mott, just enjoyed playing the game. And I was so happy when he pitched for the Cubs for the 2015 season. Didn't have a great season, but he was there and he had that same enthusiasm. And he was one of those players everybody on the team loved.
Yeah.
And he pitched with nothing but a fastball. And I just find that amazing. You know, even when his velocity was starting to go down towards the end of his career with Colorado, he's still throwing nothing but fastballs. And he was a very successful closer for the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And he was just one of my favorite players to watch. Uh, Number 6, don't like. I think I talked about this. I did not like Tony La Russa the way he treated people in press conferences. I thought he was snarky. I thought he was condescending. And I know it's a pain in the butt to answer the questions night in and night out. But the reporters are there to report on the game, put it in the papers that people want to read. They want to hear quotes. They want to know strategy, stuff like that. When La Russa was in the mood, he was great. When he wasn't in the mood, he was very salty. He was short. He was, I, I don't know.
Yeah.
I like my manager to be someone who treats the press with respect. And I kind of see it as a two-way street. Um, if the manager treats the press with respect, the press is going to treat the manager with respect. And for how La Russa many times treated the press, I thought the press was golden to him because they wouldn't come out with this stuff. It wasn't until they started televising his press conferences after the games that people thought, gosh, what's wrong with this guy? He's kind of a grouchy guy. My final and my biggest like about the Cardinals is, of course, Jack Buck. Jack Buck, tremendous announcer, great sense of humor, great storyteller, great citizen in St. Louis. A friend of mine worked at the Casino Queen, and Jack Buck used to come in there, said he was always in a good mood. He could lose money. He would still tip my friend who was a dealer big time. Just a classy guy. And when Jack Buck started going downhill, it was kind of sad to listen to him on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
But he had his health problems and the issues with his voice and everything not being as strong as it used to be. But man, I just love listening to Jack Buck. When I was a kid growing up, the Cardinals played during the day. I'd watch them on TV. Evenings, I would listen to Jack Buck and Mike Shannon.
Yeah.
And that's how I fell in love with Jack Buck and didn't really have the love for Mike Shannon that other people do.
He was special.
And if the player here picks up the bat, goes to the batting box, it's time for a bush.
He did get better as time went on, but the first few years he was a little rough around the edges. That is true.
Yeah, it was always time for a bush. So
yeah. Oh yeah.
Anyway,
Frosty Coleman.
I hope with the mild criticisms that I gave, I hope the Cardinal fans do not crucify me. That's why JJ, tell me one thing you don't like about the Cubs.
One thing I don't like about the Cubs. I'm trying to think. There's not a single player that I didn't have anything against. I can't think of anything. The only thing I remember is I wore my Cardinal stuff, a shirt and a hat, to a Cardinal game. And every time the Cubs would do something, everybody would line up about 10 deep and just pat me on the back every time the Cubs did something. I was like, very good, very good. And you guys won the game. You did win the game. But anytime the Cardinals did something, I'd smile. And anytime the Cubs did something, I'd say, that was good. That was good. They still give me crap. That was about the only thing I hated about that. I can't think of a single thing. Not a single thing.
How about when the Cubs ruined Steve Bartman's life? Cub fans ruined Steve Bartman's life. I thought that was terrible.
Well, that people say, the Cardinal fans were cussing Gary Templeton. I'm sure there were, but I'm thinking it's like, you got a handful of jerks anywhere you go. And I think for the most part, you're a Cub fan. You didn't go after Steve Bartman. I believe most of them are like you. You love your team. Oh, that guy was just maybe in the wrong place at the wrong time. How Moises Alou reacted. I was thinking, man, if I was there, I would have just tried to get the heck out of the way, But yeah, that was terrible. But I think that's just some baseball fans. I don't really hold that against the Cubs. And in the playoffs, Vince, this, the people that get to sit in the real nice seats, usually they aren't even from Chicago, or they're friends of friends, or they're pretty wealthy people that get the real good seats. It's not like the working class, the regular folks like us that go to the games and sit down there. We're usually up at the top or out in the bleachers or something in the playoffs. So that could have been out of time. Who knows,
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan when a player has a bad game of fans getting on social media and, so-and-so sucks. They blew the game. We need to get rid of, I remember once John Jay had a bad game and a friend of mine got on Facebook and trashed him. And I said, man, I'm glad that someone doesn't come on Facebook and yak about me when I have a bad day at the office. And, he felt like it's a fan's entitlement to to criticize the players. That's what you buy into when you become a Major League Baseball player. I think bull crap.
Yeah,
Bull crap.
yeah.
That's not what you buy into. Um, Sometimes you have a bad day at the office, and I've seen my favorite players, strike out 3 times in a game and then hit into a double play and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
I've seen physical errors. The thing about the Bartman thing that just made me a little agitated, um, well, made me really agitated. It wasn't so much and the Alex Gonzalez error, which really was the deal breaker, the thing that really broke the floodgates. He should have made the double play and the inning would have been over. Um, what bothered me more than anything was Moises Alou's reaction, and he never took responsibility for, I lost my cool. I shouldn't have reacted that way, because I contend if he would have just walked back like I couldn't have caught it anyway, instead of throwing his glove around and acting like a fool, the whole energy from the fan base would not have been sucked down to this vortex of, oh, here we go again.
Yeah.
Hey, we're firmly in control. But anyway,
Vince, I did think of something
in the notes.
one thing I do have to say, maybe it's changed, but the parking to go to a Cubs game is terrible. I know you've now got that train, that the elevated train that comes in, and you can get off there, or you can take an Uber or something. But back in the 80s and the 90s, parking was terrible. You had to park far away, and they would close the parking areas at a certain time, which it really wasn't advertised. It was in real small letters. So maybe it's better now. But I had some parking ordeals in the 80s and the 90s up there.
I've always just taken the LN, parked
That's
somewhere.
a smart thing. Vince, I can't figure out where to get on and get off and get back to the car. I don't know. I usually have to have somebody take me with them and show me where I get off the thing.
Park at Midway, and then
that's where you went in. Okay. All right.
We are going to do a movie review of the 1942 classic Pride of the Yankees.
Oh, a classic right there. Look at there's Lou Gehrig / Gary Cooper on the front of the box right there. Oh yeah, there you go.
Why don't you get us started?
Well, I know. Can I tell you, this is just a. I love this movie. Now, I know it's not going to win Academy Award or anything, but I absolutely love this movie. Of course, it's the story of Lou Gehrig. This movie came out in 1942, and it's not terribly long after Mr. Gehrig passed away. And 1942, I think maybe baseball might have been at one of its height of popularity. It's right there, World War II. 1941 was the year that Joe DiMaggio had the 56 game hitting streak, and Ted Williams hit 401. So, I mean, these baseball players were kind of bigger than life at the time. And then Gary Cooper, one of the all-time greats, a big-time movie star. He was in that Western Shane. Was he in Shane or High Noon? He was in High Noon. Yes.
I did not watch old Westerns.
I'm just a movie buff.
Terrible.
I love Gary
movies.
Cooper's got, yeah.
Old Westerns aren't my thing, though.
He was probably like, I don't know, at the time, I don't know, Matthew McConaughey. I don't know. Because Matthew's won an Academy Award and stuff. So Gary Cooper, big time. They filmed this at some of the old ballparks. Babe Ruth, the Sultan of Swing, Babe Ruth is in this movie. And this is not terribly long after he retired. Babe lived to be 54 years old, and he retired. I think he died about 13 years after he quit playing baseball. And to be in this movie, he was I'd say he was 46 at the time when they made this movie. He had to lose a lot of weight. He had gained weight when he retired. And Babe was, as he got older, just got bigger and bigger, but he had to lose weight to make it believable that he was Babe Ruth in his playing days. And Babe had about 6 scenes in the movie. And Bill Dickey, one of the classic catchers in baseball history. One of the all 10 greatest catchers of all time is in the movie. And Bill's kind of known for being that one of the great players between the Babe Ruth and the Joe DiMaggio era, kind of in the 30s, kind of spawned that time period. So he's in the movie too. But I'm gonna tell you what, this movie's got everything. It's heartwarming. I like the little love. You see how he found his wife. And you know, their time together, because Lou's time on Earth wasn't very long. You see behind the scenes in baseball, evidently there's two writers that are kind of shown, and all the writers would go wherever Babe Ruth went, they would follow him and cover what Babe Ruth did. But Walter Brennan, a lot of people will probably remember Walter Brennan from the Real McCoys, and I'll try. His voice was, well, God darn it, look at that. You know, he always had that little voice. And he was in some John Wayne movies. I think The Sons of Katie Elder. He might have been in that movie too, but he was in some John Wayne movies too. But he's very young in this movie, and he's playing a writer who he always stays behind. And like, there's of course the famous scene where the little boy is sick in the hospital and asks Babe Ruth to hit him a home run. He goes, I'll hit you a home run, kid. And then everybody's taking pictures. Then everybody leaves, and Lou comes in and talks to the kid. And he goes, would you hit me a home run too, Mr. Gehrig? He goes, well, I'll do my best. And of course, Walter Brennan was there and covered that. And so whenever Babe Ruth would do something, they look over at Walter Brennan and go, hey, look, you know, he ain't no Babe Ruth. And Lou Gehrig was a fantastic baseball player. Before I get really, or Vince, you get into the movie, I was just going to go over some of Lou's statistics, because Lou came up in 1923, and really in 23 and 24, he didn't play, but he just had a cup of coffee with the team. Didn't play a lot. But 1925, he took over first base. And a lot of statistical things on MLB with the shredder and everything. Lou Gehrig is the greatest first baseman that ever lived. And between 1923 and 1939, he put up some incredible stats. And of course, the one thing he'll always be remembered for is the streak, where he never missed a game. Now, back in the 30s and 40s, they only played 154 games. Now we play 162. It's not that much difference, but that is a few more games you get to play and add some statistics to your averages and things like that. But it was 100. There wasn't as many teams back in those years too. But Lou won 7 World Series. You know, I'm a Cardinal fan, and we've got 11. And Lou was on that team, and he won it 7. He won a batting title. He won the Triple Crown, 14-time All-Star, and 2-time MVP. Oh, 7-time All-Star, 2-time MVP, and he's a Hall of Fame and rated the greatest first baseman that ever lived. A WAR of 13.6. I mean, I could go on and on about Lou Gehrig, and him. Ruth played from 20 to 34, and Lou Gehrig played from 23 to 39. Now, in 1939, he played his last game with the Yankees on April 30th. So you really don't get to count 1939. I mean, he only played in April, and then he started. Of course, it's depicted in the movie with the ALS, where he just was losing his balance. He didn't have the strength anymore. A lot of people thought, he's just getting too old, but no, he was battling the disease. And I tell you what, it's heartwarming. Vince, I'll come back and talk about it if I want. I want to give you the table, because there's so many great things about this movie. I love his mom and his dad, and him and his wife, and the 2 writers, and him and Babe Ruth. It's really a good movie. Vince, if you let me, I'll talk about this thing for 3 days. So I'm going to turn it over to you and let you have it for a little bit.
Well, I like the performances in it, and I think that the glue that really holds this movie together from a human point of view is his wife, who's played by Teresa Russell.
She's great.
Gary Cooper, who's playing Lou Gehrig, you know, he's a ball player, and he is the one who dies at the end. But the real emotion comes from what his wife was going through. Gehrig was a big fan of Ruth as a kid, and that's portrayed in the movie, where, you know, at the beginning he's playing Sandlot, and, you know, he wants to get in the game, and the kids say, no, hey, what do you got? You know, he's showing him baseball cards, you know, And then, well, I'll take Honus Wagner. And so can I keep Babe Ruth? So he was a fan of Ruth as a kid. And his mom's dream for him was to be an engineer. And a lot of people know that Lou Gehrig is a graduate of Columbia University, an Ivy League school. So you think that, you know, Ruth was raised on the streets of Baltimore, very rough, and people have this perception that Gehrig was a college graduate, went to an Ivy League school. He was kind of someone with a silver spoon in his mouth, and that wasn't the case. His parents were immigrants. His dad was a janitor, and I can't remember what his mom did. His mom, maybe she was a seamstress or something like that. They lived in a small apartment, and mom's dream for him was to become an engineer. And she was kind of domineering. And he used to
Yes.
call his mother, "You're my girl," you know? And so he worked his way into Columbia, and he worked his way through Columbia. And the movie does a great job showing as he is waiting tables while on with his teammates in Columbia, you know, not with them. He's serving them because he's got a job. Um, but he worked his way through Columbia. This poor son of an immigrant couple, and he has to hide the fact that he's signed with the Yankees from his mother. And the only reason he signed with the Yankees was because his father needed a medical procedure and they didn't have the money. And he was offered a contract with the Yankees and he took it because it was going to pay dad's bills. Now, if dad wouldn't have ever got sick, I don't think he ever would have played. I think he would have just been an engineer and made his mother happy. But when mom found out that he was actually a ball player, she wasn't happy about it.
No.
And she let him know. And so he had to bring them to games. Like, this is baseball, you know, so on and so forth. Dad was always all for it. So he met his wife, Eleanor, at Comiskey Park. He's leaving the batting or going to the on deck circle and he trips over some bats and she calls him Tanglefoot. And that kind of caught on. His wife, Eleanor, in real life, she was born with money. She was born with sophistication. Her family, they were a hot dog in the hot dog industry. That sold most of the hot dogs in most of the stadiums. So they were very wealthy. And so he meets her, they fall in love. He's in New York, she's in Chicago. And finally he asks her to marry him and she says yes. What I like about the movie is even though it's done in 1942, a lot of the stuff you kind of have to look between the lines to read. If it was made today, it'd probably be a little more grittier. But the movie does certainly show that there was and it doesn't say this, but you know, history has shown that there was a fallout between Ruth and Gehrig, and the movie does kind of show that relationship cooled. And because you don't see Ruth in the movie again until the very end of the speech, and they just had two different ways of going through life. Ruth was the life of the party. He was a party guy. Gehrig was not a party guy. He was a family's person. So the movie does a great job portraying that. I like the scene in the movie where he's getting ready to play in his 2000th game and he's trying to get his wife to go. And she said, no. He said, oh, they might give me a car. Yeah. She said, oh, they're just going to give you a horseshoe of roses. And that's exactly when he comes home with a horseshoe of roses. Congratulations, 2000 game. So it was kind of funny. And then it does a good job portraying his failing health. The
Yes,
strength
it is.
is leaving and he's got to retire and he finds out that it's bad news from the doctor that there's nothing that they can do. And then the movie kind of ends with his speech. Today I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth, which if you have not heard that speech, you just go to YouTube or go to Google or something and listen to it. It's so inspiring from a man who is dying to just say, man, if this is it, I've had a great life. You know, this is really awesome. So I really love the movie. It holds up. If you're not used to watching older movies, then you do have to kind of read into a little bit of what they didn't come out and just flat out portray in older movies at that time. They kind of sanitize him a bit, but a good director would let you know that underneath there's something more going on. It's like um, It's a Wonderful Life. We think of that as a happy Christmas movie, but at the end, Jimmy Stewart is going crazy. Literally, he's falling to his own demons, and he's a terrible person. And without uh, the director Capra saying, coming out and having him beat up women and all this other stuff, you just see how he subtly shows this guy is really a dangerous fellow at this time. And the director, and gosh, who's the director? Uh, Read the director. It should be on the box.
All right. If I can here, let's see. Golly. Oh, JD Swirling? Says JD Swirling directed. Oh, screenplay by. I can't see it. Oh, directed by Sam Wood. Does that sound familiar?
Okay. I knew it was either him or Steven Spielberg or Quentin Tarantino, but
oh yeah.
But anyway, he does a great job of telling you the whole story without getting into the whole story. And one famous Yankee that you left out, Bob Musial, who was a great outfielder for the Yankees, he's also in the movie too. So
okay.
Yeah. And
there's a moment where his mother, who always wanted to be an engineer, becomes proud of him to be a ball player. That's my son. She's very proud. She goes to the ballpark and when's the game going to start? They're just out there doing the field, She goes, is this what this is? She didn't know what was. And at the end, she is so proud of him being a ball player.
Yeah, it's a great movie. So that's all.
Watch it with your kids or your family, or it's just good. It's a good family film too.
Yeah. Well, JJ, are you ready to open up some baseball cards?
Let's do it. Is it that time already? Well, I bought a whole box of these 2019 Topps. We were just talking, and of course, we always mention somebody and they show up. There's Aaron Judge, and of course, Babe Ruth right there.
All right.
I'll start on these bad boys right here.
I've got 1988 Nature Boy Ric Flair. Woo!
That's right. Custom made, baby. All right. Let me make sure these are all facing in the right direction. Let's see. 2019. What are they holding for me? Oh, the number one pitcher in baseball, according to MLB. If you look at all the Corbin Burns right there. How about that? Yeah. They rated him the number one pitcher in baseball. And I can't disagree. He is fantastic. Let's see who else we got here. Oh, this is 2019, still with the Cubs at the time. Kyle Schwarber. Look at that. Yeah. Probably admiring one of his blasts right there. That dude can hit him a long way away. Well, he was with us for about 2 or 3 years. Andrew Miller signed him to a big contract. And I'll be honest, we didn't get the Cleveland Indian or Cleveland Guardian Andrew Miller, but he did okay for us. Vince, I'm gonna need your expertise on this guy, Kansas City Royal, Brett Phillips. Any recollections? I cannot think of this guy at all.
No, but he looks like he's sliding or diving or something. So
he's defying gravity. Oh, here's a guy that has made the Nationals have got a nice minor league team. Got some minor leaguers coming up. Juan Soto. And that's with the rookie of the all rookie team right there. Those little trophies are for the all rookie team. They got cards. The team card is Dodger Stadium. Chavez Ravine. Yeah, right there.
The second oldest stadium in the National League now, and that just blows me away.
Oh my gosh. Was that built in the 50s too, wasn't it? The 1950s?
Yeah, early 60s.
Oh, okay. So they went out there and played somewhere else before while that was being built.
The Coliseum for the first couple of years.
Wow. Well, I tell you what, I saw this guy pitch in person. It's a treat. It was a treat to watch him mystify the Cardinals, but Tom Glavine, they kind of have some throwback cards in there. And I tell you what, Tom Glavine, that guy had it going on. That Brave team, it was unfair playing them in a 3-game series. Oh, here it is in action. This guy has had a nice career. Brandon Crawford from the Giants.
Yeah.
He played on Team USA the last time they had it, that tournament. This guy, he's setting up Hall of Fame statistics. Jose Altuve, the
Yes.
little guy. I see a picture with him and Aaron Judge next to each other. It was like the littlest guy in Major League Baseball and the tallest guy in Major League Baseball. And my last one here is a New York Yankee, Sonny Gray.
Oh
You
yeah.
know, coming off the mound there. Was he a Cincinnati Red at one
Yeah, he
time?
pitched for the Reds, and now I think he's with the Twins.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. Okay. My first card is a stadium card, Oakland Alameda, and it's in black and white.
Oh, I've been there
Um,
once.
because color wasn't invented in 1988. So,
That's true.
oh, and my first player is Jeff Stone.
I remember Jeff. Yeah, he had a short career, but he was pretty good.
Uh, next we have former Cub, and I think, yes, he played a little bit for the. Did he play for the Cardinals? Pat Tabler.
I don't remember with him with us, but yeah, I remember him. I didn't know he was a Cub. I remember him with the Indians.
Yeah, he had like an unreal batting average with the bases loaded. It was stupid. Former outfielder for the Reds, Cal Daniels.
Oh yes, I slightly remember him.
Ooh, here's a forgotten player who was really good. Willie Upshaw, first baseman for the Blue Jays.
Yes.
And here's a guy who probably, I guess his mother remembers him, Rocky Childress with the Astros. I don't remember this guy.
I think he's on the back of a milk carton right now. I haven't heard of that guy in a long time.
Oh, former 20-game winner for the White Sox, Richard Dodson.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Oh, and former right fielder for the Cubs, Keith Moreland,
You know what? He
father
was
of
good.
Mitch Moreland. What's that?
Oh, wait a minute. So there was two Morelands for the Cubs?
Mitch Moreland plays, I think he's still playing. Mitch
Oh,
Moreland's his
okay.
son. Keith Moreland
Oh,
played for the Cubs.
okay. All right.
And here's a left-hander who had a few really good years. I think he won 20 games a couple times for the Brewers, Teddy Higuera.
Teddy Higuera. I think it was Rookie of the Year one year. Oh
Uh,
yeah. He reminded me of Fernando Venezuela.
yeah, he won 20 games in 86 and 18 games in 87.
Mm.
Uh, pitcher for the Braves, Jeff Dedman. I hope he's still alive, not Deadman. Ooh, Donnell Nixon for the Mariners. He was
Oh
a
yeah.
decent
I
player. There
I
we go.
remember him being a stolen base guy. Put up a
Yeah.
lot of stolen bases.
Uh, pitcher for the Giants, John Perlman.
Don't recall.
Oh, former Cub and former American League MVP, Willie Hernandez, closer for the
Oh,
84 Tigers.
best team I ever seen play, that 84 Tiger team.
Former All-Star catcher for the Padres, Benito Santiago.
Ah, Benito. He did everything with a flair.
Yeah.
He had a long hitting streak too. I think maybe 30
Yeah,
games or something
like his
that.
rookie year. Yeah, he had a really good one. And for a
Yeah.
catcher, that's amazing. This guy was an interesting player. World Series hero for the Mets. Came up with the Reds, took over for Pete Rose, also played for the Orioles, and was married to golfer Nancy Lopez, Mr. Ray Knight.
Nice career. Yeah.
And former shortstop for the Dodgers, Mariano Duncan.
I remember he played for a lot of teams.
Yeah, so no Hall of Famers in this package, but still good.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Very so good. Next week, please join us as we will have our second installment of Down on the Farm, where Brody and Maxwell will look at low A and high A for the Cardinals and the Cubs. And also our guest will be Mark Souders, and he was part of the family that owned all the Turn 2 collectibles in the St. Louis area in the 90s, I think late 80s going into the 90s, into the 2000s. And he's going to tell us some of his memories of working in the trading card industry at a brick and mortar place at the malls. So, JJ, you have anything to add?
No, be safe out there. You know, spring is getting here. Spring pitchers and catchers. The position players are coming at the end of the week. We got the World Baseball Classic. The days are getting longer. It's getting better and better. I can't wait, man.
By the way, I have looked it up. The World Baseball Classic is going to be on FS1, FS2, and Tubi TV. So if you don't have FS1 or FS2, you can find a few games on Tubi. Tubi is a free app for streaming TV. So
I do have that. All right.
So,
thank you, Vince.
No problem. Well, thank you for joining us, and we will see you next week.
All right.